I went live on this channel. I'm very sorry. 2020 was a very insane year all around. So, something I did near the end of 2019, I believe, was doing a annual goal setting and planning live video with you guys, and I thought that was great, so I wanted to do it again. I'm a little later than I want to be, but that's okay. All right. So first, I'm going to go ahead and just get the live stream pulled up on my laptop so I can see if anyone has questions, comments, etc. Hey, Veronica. I can read the questions and stuff on the phone, but it's definitely easier when I have the computer right here. All right, 1 second. Oh, there it is. Oh gosh, that's a horrible thumbnail. Okay. Hey Trisha, hey Brandy. All right, so, hi Gloria. You'll need a couple things. You'll either need a laptop or some device, could be a tablet or a phone, or a notebook. I love notebooks. I end up putting everything in spreadsheets on my computer later, but usually when I'm sitting there just dreaming, I'm handwriting in a notebook. There's no right or wrong, whatever works for you. Apparently there's now these tablets too. It's the coolest thing in the world. You can just write on them, like with your handwriting, and it transcribes them for you, or whatever the word is. Hi Dave. So I'll be getting one of those someday, maybe. And my cats are running around. So if you see cats, I'm talking about you. If you see cats behind me, this is my house. I did kick the kid out for a while, but all right. First thing that I like to do is think about the overall big picture with my business. Now you hear about things like the 10-year plan, the 5-year plan, the 1-year plan, things like that. I don't necessarily think of it in terms of years, because if I were to set time frames to things, I usually hopefully reach them faster than that. I do set time frames, but I don't like to think of it in like, okay, where do I want to be in 10 years? Like that just doesn't work for me personally. So I kind of think big picture. So with my business, where do I want to get my business to? This also is something that I think it's really important that it stays fluid. My business, while having the same general goal and purpose, has changed so much over the years. I'll give you a little backstory. I was doing art under my name for a very long time, and just, my paintings, and that was actually going well and growing. And then I decided to go with Mixed Media Girl. Simultaneously, I had another company or business. It was first called The Art Collaboration. It then changed to Artist Synergy. Actually, there was something else. It was Artist Underground, and then it changed to Artist Synergy, and now I guess it's still Artist Synergy technically, but it's kind of all coming under the heading of Mixed Media Girl. And I had The Painter and You, which was local paint nights, and then that changed. So just things have changed a lot over the years, and I think it's really important to be very fluid. 2020, if that taught us anything, it's that we got to kind of think on our feet and change quickly if needed. So I went from at the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, I was just starting to do in-person workshops. That, of course, got quickly shut down. So I could have been like, oh, this sucks. I'm broke. I guess I give up. COVID. Or I could be like, okay, cool. No more in-person classes, workshops. How can I change? So that prompted me to do the online classes way faster than I was ever planning on doing them. Now I wish I had done them way sooner, because they're being very successful, And I love that I can be international, but so that's important, is to be fluid with your plans. This is a little weird because I know you guys are there, but I feel like I'm kind of talking to myself. Let me know as I go if you guys have any questions, or if anything I say doesn't make sense, or if you have your own feedback or your own way that you like to do things that you want to share with everybody else. Great. Okay. So overall, big picture with my business currently, I want to kind of dominate with acrylic pouring with the online courses. That to me is something I'm having a lot of fun with, and I want to come out with more books in the area. And basically, I would like to be just a really strong opinion leader and teacher in the fluid art field. Dave said, what's your idea of a great artist? That's a great question. That's the other thing too, is like a lot of people get stuck on what's successful and what's not. And there's no specific definition of success. That could be something different for everybody. For someone, it could be just selling paintings and they're a successful artist. For someone else, it could be that they're fully replaced their income with art sales. And, so it's a very fluid term. Now, when you say great artist, do you mean like super talented, or do you mean successful? Like, what do you mean by great specifically? Because great itself can have a lot of different definitions. Business goals with personal goals. That's a really good question. Okay, well, I think if we get into kind of the balance, setting the goals and figuring out how to achieve them, and then we can go into kind of how to also make that all work with the rest of your life, because that is a really, really difficult topic. Okay, so overall goals, I want to have like a good 15 to 20 online courses personally. Now, I'm not talking about this year. I'm just talking about in general. So this is kind of like overall business goals. I had a goal of being a published author. I already have accomplished that now, but now I want to have like 10 books out. So I want to have like 10 published books. And as much as it scares me, I would like to, I think, grow in terms of public speaking and kind of do a lot more of that. So I guess be a public speaker. So these are just some of kind of my overall goals. My biggest goal in life, of course, there's making money with my own art and being a successful artist for myself. But my biggest goal in life is to help others and to help others become successful artists. So my goals kind of line up with that, if that makes sense. Rachel said, I set goals for getting my work online and selling, but realistically speaking, how long should I expect to take to grow an online shop? That's a really good question, and we'll kind of go into that in a little bit. Okay, so we have general goals. Now let's take a look at, there's a little bit more to that, and I'm not going to, we could probably sit here for a whole week and plan our entire lives out, but we're just I want to get just kind of the structure of how I break down my goals and how I actually am able to achieve them, and hopefully that helps some of you. So now let's take a look at, say, this year specifically. You have to also kind of consider the things that you want to accomplish in the next few years, because you're going to have to line yourself up. Let's say I want to buy a house next year. Now that's a personal goal, but my business, I would have to make the money in my business to achieve that goal, right? So if I want to buy a house at the beginning of next year and I don't start working on that this year, that's not going to happen. I'm going to just talk about goals that I want to achieve by the end of this year. But you should be looking a few years in advance as well, because you're going to need to line these things up. Mine's a little bit of a different situation in that I have accomplished so many of my professional goals actually. And now I'm now I'm kind of starting to focus a little bit more on my personal goals. But for this year, I want to come out with at least 4 more online courses. And I want to write 3 books. Those are 2 of my goals. I have others, but let's just take a couple here. Okay, so let's say for the 4 online courses, it's one thing to say, I want to sell 100 paintings. That's fantastic. But if you don't sit there and actually work out how to do it, and I'm going to, give it a more relatable goal to you guys. I don't have a quantity of paintings sold as much as an income goal from those paintings sold. So, see, I had worked this out. I wrote it down somewhere else. But I would like to earn $60,000 this year just from painting sales, from art sales alone. That's not including courses or anything else. That may seem like a crazy number, but at the rate I'm going, I think it's doable. I don't know. Okay, so let's just say 60,000. Now I would have to break that down. So that's about $5,000 a month in art sales, okay? And I sell my paintings for an average of, let's say an average of like $80, okay? So I would have to actually break that down into how many I would actually have to sell per month. Now that's already seeming a little unrealistic. So I might actually break that goal down a little bit further. So let's say I sell, if I sell 100 paintings a month, that's a lot. That's too much, right? Let me do some math here. I don't have my phone because I'm filming on it, so I don't have my calculator, but that's okay because I'm pretty good at math. Let's work this out here. Okay, I think that's a little more realistic. So let's say I sell 30 paintings a month. That will get me to actually about $30,000 in sales. That's actually something I would be very happy with. I think I can even beat that. Okay, now how to sell 30 paintings a month. But you see though, already just breaking it down makes it more realistic. If I just say I want to make $30,000 this year for my art sales, that can make it too big to actually work out the steps needed to accomplish it. Now if I go, I need to sell 30 paintings a month, that makes it more confrontable, more realistic. I know the actual action targets that I have to achieve. Now how to sell 30 paintings a month. If I'm only adding 10 paintings to Etsy per month, eventually I will not have enough to sell. So I have to be adding probably at least 30 paintings to Etsy per month. But let's say I want to add 40 paintings to Etsy per month. I don't know if you guys have heard kind of like the saying, but you have a farmer and they know they need to have so many crops to survive financially and for their family. If they only planted that exact many amount of crops, they would be in trouble because you have bugs would eat some, maybe a drought would eat some, like it wouldn't go exactly as planned. So you have to plan for more than that to get to your goal. So I would have to, let's say, put at least 40 paintings a month on Etsy. That means I have to produce at least 40 paintings a month. These are big goals. The other way I could look at this if I wanted to is to increase the cost of the paintings that I'm selling. So let's say I want to go to an average of $150 per sale. Great. So I need to start doing larger paintings or increase the cost. But this is like, you guys kind of see how I start to break this down. Okay. Now let's say I'm adding 40 paintings a month to Etsy. Right now there are no art shows going on, really. There are some. Depends on where you live. I'm in Los Angeles. Everything's completely shut down. I can't go sit in a restaurant and eat. We're supposed to stay home. I'm just talking about this current situation, and you kind of have to change with the current situations. All right. In other states or other countries, you might be able to go show your art in a gallery or cafe, things like that. You have to personalize it for yourself. So, but what if I go, great, I'm going to add 40 paintings to Etsy, and then I'm going to do an art auction also. And I could do that live, or I could do that on my Facebook page. But via art auction, I'm going to sell another 20 paintings. Now, those tend to sell a little bit less than my ones on Etsy. That's okay, but that factors into that. All right, now maybe, okay, I'm going to do a monthly online art show. And at that online art show, I'm going to sell 10 paintings. So I already just worked out selling 20 at the art auction, 10 online at my art show, which brings it down to only needing to sell maybe 10 to 15 on Etsy. So you see how that kind of works? Is you have to get creative. You can't just set a goal. You need to actually work out the steps of how you could get there. Now let's say I start doing an online art show and that proves to be very successful. Then I would focus more on that. That's the other, this is what I'm talking about being fluid, is you got to be willing to kind of like, if something's turning out to be really successful, do more of that. If something turns out to not be very successful, stop doing that. Don't focus your time and energy. For example, my Facebook page is actually, for Mixed Media Girl, is 100 times more successful right now than my YouTube. So I'm actually putting a lot more focus on Facebook than YouTube. That's just an example of kind of changing with the times. So let me know in the comments, what are some of your guys' business goals? And Rachel, I'm going to kind of address some of your question here. Realistically speaking, how long should I expect it to take to grow an online shop? That's going to depend on a few things. One, how much do you have on there? Are you just putting up like 5 or 10 pieces? Are you putting up like 100? Etsy actually likes when you frequently add items. If you're on Etsy, each platform's a little different. If you're doing it on your website, you're going to have to build up the audience a bit more yourself. How big is your other social media? How big is your Facebook, your Instagram, your YouTube if you have it? How big are those things? Because that will make a big difference. If you have a massive online following and you then set up a shop, it'll grow like that. If you have no online following and you're starting from scratch and you set up a shop, it's going to be a lot slower. Neither is wrong, and they'll both work out just fine. But it's kind of hard to answer how long it would take, if that makes sense. Now, once you've actually set up the online shop, how are you promoting it? Do you have a newsletter list? Do you have a very supportive friends and family? These kind of things all factor into it. So I was selling art for, honestly, for like a couple years online before I started to make some serious money from it. And even then, like it's let me see if I'm looking from your direction. So it's gone like this, and then like this, and then it goes like this, and then like this, so it kind of depends. It just depends on the work you put into it, or the work you have put into it previously in growing your audience. All right, Giovanna said, is Etsy the best way to sell? I personally hate Etsy with a passion, and I've talked about this for a year and a half now, but in about a month and a half, will have all of my art off of Etsy. Etsy doesn't make any sales for me. And their fees, as far as I'm concerned, are kind of atrocious. Other people love Etsy to death. It depends. For me, Etsy doesn't sell my art for me. I have already the audience and I sell my art myself. So I basically give Etsy free money. Now, if you didn't have any audience, then I think it's a great platform to get started with for selling your art. You just have to kind of play by their rules. They love when you give the free shipping. So you can do that and that will help. They love when you market with them. You can do that. You can also even set up a website directly on Etsy. They do have a lot of really great functions. I severely dislike their business practices though and their fees. Okay. Gloria said, Facebook seems to do nothing unless I'm boosting everything I put up. So your Facebook page will grow based off of how much interaction you get. There are things that you can do to boost that interaction without paying. Things like that, things to do that would be things like asking questions, doing polls, anything that gets a lot of people to answer. You can do giveaways. You can ask your friends and family to specifically send the link to a post and be like, hey, please go comment on this, or please share this specific post. You just really need to increase that interaction organically, or you need to pay. But the best would be to do it organically. Get your audience invested in you. Get your audience asking you questions or contributing. I like to do things like, hey, I got this new tool. How do you think I should pour through it? And I'll get tons of interactions because people love to join in. Or what colors do you think I should use next? Or, things like that, and you get people answering. When you're first starting your page, you may ask a question and it's crickets. You get nothing. So that's where you need to go behind the scenes and you need to kind of force the algorithm by asking your friends and family to actually help you to boost those posts by interacting. That's my best suggestion, and that's how I did it when I started, and that's how I did it even with YouTube when I started, because you post a video and 5 people see it when you're first on YouTube, unless you happen to just hit the right keywords and the right exact everything. But I would send it to my friends and family, be like, watch it and comment and share and stuff, and that would help boost it naturally. All right. Giovanna, it's a great place to start. So I would absolutely say go ahead and start on Etsy, and then later on, once you have more of an audience and you're making your own sales, go ahead and set up your own website and your own store. I mean, I sell 10, not counting like auctions or whatever, just on Etsy, I sell usually like 15 to 20 paintings per month. And I'm at this point now going to be making my own website. It is an investment to set up your own store. So I'd say from the get-go, like when you're just starting, Etsy is a great platform to just start on. Just know that you're going to be giving them fees, and you just got to be okay with that, All right. So Rachel said, I have a small following on Facebook and YouTube, but I just started those a few months ago. My goal is to build YouTube and create 20 to 30 items to list before I open the shop this spring. That is excellent. I 100% think that those are some great goals. Make sure you're in the business of our insider group too, because one of the things that I want is to use this group as it's literally insiders. I want it to be a close-knit family. Like the people that you can ask to say, hey, help me boost this post, please, or I just started my YouTube channel. Can you help me get a little push by watching my first video and subscribing and stuff like that? I don't want it to become a spam group. And this is where you get a little fine line, but I want it to be like us all helping each other to grow our art businesses. The thing that will make it the most successful is if everybody's helping each other. So you don't just ask for help, and then not go help each other. You got to go subscribe to other people's, follow them on Instagram, watch their videos, and help them out as well. And I think we can have a fantastic group. So the link for the Insider group, if you're not already in it, is in the description for this video. Okay. Charming Giraffe, on giveaways, how do I make sure I'm following all the rules for the different platforms? Seems like the rules change a lot and I don't want to get in trouble. Totally. The most important thing is you start off your giveaway with, this giveaway is not associated in any way, shape, or form whatsoever with whatever platform it is. If you're sharing it to multiple platforms, say it's not associated with Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, for instance. So that's the first thing I always say on my giveaways. Next, don't ever call it a raffle. Call it a giveaway or a prize drawing. At least in the US, there are specific laws associated with raffle. It's considered gambling, and it's very different, okay? And then the only other thing is just to have very specific rules. Be very clear. This is exactly how you enter. This is exactly when you enter. This is exactly the prize you'll get, and you have to claim it by this date. I have done things. I have never done a giveaway on Instagram, but I have done many on Facebook, and I've done many on YouTube, and those things I've never had any issues. Just doing those things. I say, not associated in any way with this platform. Don't call it a raffle. Be very, careful with your choice of words there, and then just be really specific about the rules of entry. I like to use gleam.io for my giveaways, but if I'm doing it on Facebook, I usually do something simple. Like, hey, comment below this, and I'll pick the winner by this time, Okay. Brandy said, how many items do you suggest listing when you open the business page? I assume you mean like a store, right? Like your Etsy store. I would say have at least like 30. I think 30 is a pretty good starting. 20 to 30 is a good starting point. I wouldn't have less than that. Yeah. Okay. Gloria said, I want to do a YouTube channel, but I don't have a clue. Where do I start? That's a good question. Like, are you not sure how to actually make the channel or what to put on it? Or once you've made it and put things on it, how to build it? I do have Mixed Media Girls Tips for YouTube Success, which is also actually linked in this description. It's super cheap. Amazon ebook. I would go ahead and pick that up. That gives you a start to finish how to build a YouTube channel, like from nothing to having a YouTube channel. It's a quick and easy read, and it's super cheap, and that should answer most of your questions. But if you have like specific questions, it can probably help with that. All right, I'm going to go back to the earlier question from the Charming Giraffe on how do you balance your business goals with your personal goals. This is, to be honest, something I personally have struggled with a little bit. I'm just going to get very personal on, so I have, let's say 3 big things that I want. I had 4. I did 1, but I have right now like 3 big things that I want. One is to grow my business, and that takes a lot of money. Like, I'm building my own website right now from scratch, and that is such an investment. Gloria, it's called Mixed Media Girls Tips for YouTube Success, and if you look in the description for this live video, it's right there. But you can find it on Amazon. Mixed Media Girls Tips for YouTube Success. I think also if you just, see, I told you. If you just type in Marcy Farrow, it'll come up under my books. Building my business, which is such a big investment, to actually do it, and I'm just starting to do online marketing, and I'm in that tough situation of hiring people to help me because I've expanded past really the point where I can physically do everything, like answer all the comments and answer all the emails and do tech support for people who can't figure out how to sign up for the course. It's like all this stuff. It's it's a lot. So my business is a huge investment. I want to buy a house. I've never bought a house before. In the current house that I live in, I'm also past the point where I can continue to expand. I've run out of space, and that's kind of tied into a third thing of I would like to have another child. And I can't possibly have another child in this house. It's too small. I have one bathroom, 2 square feet, and there's no space. There's literally no space. So I have to kind of pick and choose, or I have to make up enough money to do all of them. And just to get even more personal, I physically, not me, but me and my husband, we cannot have a child, unfortunately, physically, or at least it just hasn't worked out. We've been trying for 7 years. So we're going to probably go to in vitro or adoption, both of which are really expensive options. And of course, buying a house is expensive. All of these things are really expensive. And it is definitely a juggle. So you have to prioritize a little bit, and then there are things that I'm not willing to put off any longer, especially if I want to physically have a child. I'm 36. I'm running out of the time where I can physically have a child, so I can't put that off much longer. And that's really competing with my business goals and buying a house. And I don't normally get this personal, so you guys probably don't know like any of this, but I have to make a decision on that. So I'm timeline prioritizing the house this year because I need the house so I can have the child. Whichever, your tail's in my face. Whichever route that I go with, that's got to become a priority. So I've got my business luckily at a point where it's kind of, if it maintains, great, and it will continue to grow this year and I'm getting more help. But I'm prioritizing my personal goals probably for the first time ever this year specifically because I'm running out of time on some things. It's a little crazy. And my family is super duper important to me. So I prioritized retiring my dad even over having another child or buying a house, which wasn't really a tough call for me. He's extremely old. He's not that old. I don't know. He's 70 something. Let's just say that. But with COVID and all that, it just, for a while, it's made me so mad that he has to keep working and had nothing saved up and whatever. There's a lot of reasons, but I prioritized that even over a bunch of other things. So you kind of got to decide for your own happiness and mental health, sanity, what do you need to get done this year, or what can be put off until next year. For the last few years, I prioritized so much growing my business because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to buy a house or retire my dad or have another child. I know, I'm not saying 70 something is old, but the guy had nothing saved up and he was working 7 days a week, and with the amount that he gave to me, I felt it was only fair that I give it back in return, But yeah, I prioritized for the last few years my business over my personal goals so that I could afford to do my personal goals and not dig myself a hole that I wouldn't be able to get out of. Had I bought a house a few years ago, man, I'd be in so much trouble right now. I probably would have lost the house. I probably would have foreclosed, whatever, Yeah. So, and then just schedule wise, this is something I've gone over before, is you have to, even when you're hustling, you're working hard and you're kicking butt and taking names, you have to set aside the time for your family and for yourself. And it's still something that's extremely hard for me. But like yesterday, I didn't answer my phone all day long. I took the day with my daughter. We had fun. And I was off my phone pretty much all day long. It was amazing. Never happens, but it was awesome. So you have to, when doing your scheduling, put that time in for yourself. My normal daily schedule goes a little something like this. I get up in the morning. I get the kid ready, pack her lunch, all that nonsense. Now she goes to school. She just started going back to school this week for the first time since March. So before that, it was a little bit of a different thing, but it was still get the kid up, breakfast, all that stuff, and then roll call, whether via Zoom or now in person. And then once I get into my business, I usually spend the morning doing my video work and the actual like physical activities, videos, paintings, commissions, things like that. And then in the afternoon, I designate that time to building my business. So that's where I will actually do my social media work, my computer work. And sometimes it changes. Sometimes I'll flip them around. It's not hard set. I roll with the punches. But in the afternoon usually is when I put on my executive hat, my boss, my CEO, my business owner hat, and I designate those hours towards building my business. At nighttime, I pick up my kid, we have dinner, and I try as much as possible to designate that as just family time. I don't want to keep working at night. For a while I did though. When I was more hustling, I would, but then I had to schedule the family time, schedule the date night, schedule the hang out with your parents time, or whatever it is that you do, and everybody's life is different. I also like, yeah, there's things that are very important to me. I go to church, not physically right now, you know, but I go to church all the time because that's something that's really important to me, and for me that helps keep my sanity. So you have to just make sure that you schedule all of that stuff. You have to give yourself that time, otherwise you will burn out, and it's hard to keep going. It's really hard to keep going. I hope that answered your question, Veronica. That was a really long answer. I hope that answered your question. Okay. Does everyone feel like they have a little bit better direction on achieving, or at least planning on achieving their goals this year? The biggest thing I found that people go wrong with is setting the goals, but then not actually sitting there and breaking them down in terms of actual achievement. How do you actually, like, I want to write 3 books this year, okay? One, luckily, is already almost done. I've been writing it for the last couple years, so it's already almost done. Great. The other 2, I haven't even started with. I know that in the next couple weeks, I have got to get book proposals done, because my first thing that I'm going to be doing is shopping it to some publishers and see if I can get that published. If not, I'm still going to write the books. Then I will probably shop again, and if no publisher is interested, I'll just self-publish, and that's okay. But I have a timeline for those things. I have to write I already have my outlines written. I already did that last week. I've got to get my proposals written. Then by the end of this month, that has to be sent out to all my possible publishers. Then, you know, this much has to be written by this time. This much has to be written by this time. It has a whole timeline, but it's broken down for the whole year so that everything can get done in time. And I usually do this, I try to do this at the end of the previous year. This year, I didn't get it done until the first few days of January. And I'm not talking about New Year's resolutions. None of these are New Year's resolutions. It's not I want to be a better person this year, or I'm going to, as of January 1st, I'm going to start doing this. Nothing wrong with New Year's resolutions, but the problem with most of those is that they're not actually planned. They're not actually broken down in how to achieve that. So that's the biggest thing, is to actually take that specific goal, sit down and really write down exactly what you would have to do to get to that goal. If that's unrealistic, you change the goal. Now, don't sell yourself short and say I'll do less than you actually can. If anything, go a little bit above what you think you can, but you need to actually work out all those actions and they have to be realistic. Okay. Now, Prophetess Fry said, how do you shop around for a good publisher? That's an excellent question. Long story short, you don't want to... Ooh. I just pressed the wrong button. Long story short, the most important thing is that you don't want to send your book to people who are not interested. I'm writing a art and craft book. So I want to look for art and craft publishers. I don't want to send my book to self-help publishers or to cooking book publishers. There's actually different kind of publishers for everything. I don't know if you guys know that, but not all publishers publish everything. And even like, so say Barnes and Noble, okay, they have all the different books. They have companies under them that are subsidiaries of Barnes and Noble that handle certain things. So they have a art and craft book publisher. So that's the first thing, is you want to find those. Then you need to know how, I know, I didn't know that either. More recently, I've learned so much about the publishing business over the last couple years. It's amazing. But then you need to write a book proposal. Now, there's actually a specific way to write a book proposal. There's specific things that you write. And if you look online how to write a book proposal, there's plenty of just super easy ways. If anyone's actually interested, I could probably do a whole talk on this specifically, because from my publisher, I got the exact points that they're looking for in a book proposal. But you would need to put that together, make sure it's very well written. I would probably even have a few people look it over before you actually send it, and then you just start sending it out. And that's literally what I'm going to do. I'll let you know how it goes. My last book, I was lucky in that I was approached by the publisher to do it. So this one's going to be a little bit differently. I'm going to do it in reverse, but luckily with the knowledge I already have of the last book that I published. So I'm a little step ahead. But yeah, no problem. I can get that set up. It would probably be best in the next couple months, so I can let you know how my shopping goes and let you know if that works. But yeah, when you do have a book published, at least one thing that I know that it's super important, I'm such a question asker. So I've asked my editor all sorts of questions, like how am I doing on book sales compared to other people in my field? And like, because I have nothing to compare it to. I don't know. Is that good, bad? I don't know. And she says I'm doing above average on sales. And I said, great. Now, just from you as a publisher, what would you need from me that would make you guys want to publish another book from me? So I asked all these questions, and now I have this awesome. I think I can do it. We'll find out. I got a lot of information. Okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with too many questions, especially if you're not, like, people want to help people that genuinely want to learn. I do a lot of my own research as well. That's the other thing too. Like you can research what's the average amount of books that a first-time author sells. What's the average amount of books sold by an author in this genre? And you can research top-ranking books on Amazon. So I do a lot of my own research and try not to ask. I only consider questions dumb when I can easily find out the answer myself. So I try to only ask the questions that I can't really easily find out myself, or at least I don't know that I can. But yeah, there's no such thing as too many questions. Ask all the questions in the world. That's how you'll learn. All right, guys. Any other questions before I sign off for today? Get more coffee. Was this helpful to you guys? Brandy said, when you put a painting or product on Facebook, do we need to say who inspired it or where we learned the technique? The only time I do that is with videos specifically, not the actual painting itself. But if I'm putting up a video and it was inspired by someone else's technique, I will say that in there to give them credit. If it's just a picture of a painting, I wouldn't worry about it at all. Okay, yes, helpful, awesome, cool. Oh, hey, James. All right, and of course, as always, you can always email me with other questions. If anyone's watching this on the replay, put the questions down in the comments. I'll do my best to get back to you. And I swear one of my goals for 2020 is to focus more on this channel and grow this channel more. You can always let me know what video topics you would specifically like to see. Actually, I'm writing down that one on getting a book published. So any other specific topics that you guys would like to see coming up? So book published and book proposal. I mean, I think it would actually be good to have one on, like, I guess how to even just start a store. What are the things you should have in place to start selling your art online? Something like that. Would that be helpful? I'll go over real quick. Let me go to my sheet, my spreadsheet here. I have kind of my list of ideas written down. So I was thinking about doing a video on different tripods and cameras, what to look for in them, or what's the best in terms of what you're doing if you're starting to film or photograph your work. What it's like to be an influencer is another idea I had. I've done a video on this before, but I wanted to do another one on, like, repurposing your content. Those are just a few of the ideas that I've had. Okay, let's see. So Crafty Healing Art, the best group for that would be the Business of Art Insider group. That's kind of the purpose of that group, is to discuss the things like that. But I can also do a video. Okay. So that seems good. So tripods and cameras and improving videos. So I'll put that down. I will tell you a few things that are just kind of the immediate improves them. One is to have the best lighting. Now this right here is not even the best lighting, but I'm not filming painting, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of a leeway here. I didn't want to do this out in my studio. I have much better lighting in there. Even that's not the best, but have excellent lighting, film in the correct direction, don't have a shaky camera, have good sound, and that doesn't mean you have to have a separate microphone. I don't use a separate microphone. Other people do, and that's fine, but you don't actually need it. So just good sound. Don't have other external noises as much as possible. Don't have a bunch of dogs barking in the room or whatever. And then the thing that I found that's probably the most important is to not have your videos drag out longer than needed. Don't have a lot of dead space, a lot of a lot of, like, what am I doing? What's going on? Oh shoot, I forgot this material over here. Let me go get it. Don't have that all that dead space, you know? Okay, great. And if you guys have any other specific topics you would like to see covered, comment them below or let me know in the Facebook group or just message me, etc. So let's all have a very, very fantastic, successful 2021. It's already started out crazy, but that's okay. Focus on flourishing and prospering in your business, and that will make everything else a lot better. So thank you guys for joining me. See you all next time. Let me see if I can hit the stop button here. Bye, guys.